We're all picking Hawthorn, aren't we?
I'm not sure about that, Bruce.
No, I've changed, Bruce, but I've changed about 10 times this year, but I'm going with Freo, I think.
I've been on Hawthorn all year, but I was there Saturday night, Bruce, and saw the most extraordinary pressure that I've ever seen. It's perfect for finals. I think they'll win. I think Fremantle will win, and this is at a new level, Doug, that we've never seen before, and they are so systematic in the way they go about it. I know Sydney were tired and a bit sore, and it's hard to beat them over there, but if they can replicate this, I honestly think they'll beat them.
Well, they certainly can replicate it. They've done it all year, Das, so I have no problems with them being able to do it on Saturday.
Well, one of our highlights tonight, we'll be talking to both Ross Lyon and also to Alistair Clark. You know, this was extraordinary. It was like the dark arts. It was like watching something from Hogwarts. I'd never seen it before.
No, Bruce, I watched it on television, so I didn't go to Perth, but I mean, I think there was a stat coming up in the commentary that during the game saying it was 80% of their forward line, and that was consistently throughout that quarter, and it was amazing. If they had to capitalise on some of the scoring opportunities, could have been a bit worse.
And I think, Andrew, I know you've heard a lot about this, but Fremantle are opting for their white jumper. The AFL have instructed them that they should wear the white shorts, and they said, well, OK, on that basis we're going to wear a white jumper. Now, I look at the split screen there, and I don't see any clash at all between the purple and the brown and gold, and I'm just staggered that Fremantle would choose not to wear their purple, given that's their brown, it's everything they stand for, the purple haze, that whole town of Fremantle's been painted purple. I mean, are you surprised that they're not going to have that iconic part of their brand on display on Grand Final day?
Well, they're certainly given the option, Luke. I mean, I think our policy has been that we always have on Grand Final day the best appearance of the game. I think the last 10 grand finals, one club's worn white shorts, except for Sydney, who got predominantly white in their jumper. And Fremantle were told to wear white shorts for this game, and they could have easily chosen to wear the purple jumper. And from a perspective of the purple haze, I mean, it probably would have been a great effect for their brand and for their club. But they've chosen to wear all white, and we've had clubs wear all white before. St Kilda did it in their grand finals. But look, that sea of purple is an amazing sight for people to see. I mean, it's turned the whole town purple. It's symbolic for the Fremantle Football Club.
If it was a sticking point and the shorts were white, would the AFL consider them wearing purple shorts if that was going to appease them? Because you guys are great at branding yourself, the AFL, and it seems as though you're bankrolling clubs every other day. I mean, to me, this just seems like a ridiculous decision. Would you let them wear the purple shorts if that helped?
Well, thankfully I didn't have to make that decision. It comes out of football operations. But look, it is important to have a good appearance on the day. And when you've got two teams that have got all one colour, or predominantly all one colour, and there's no white in it to distinguish it, it can be a bit confusing. But look, on balance, having the white shorts is the right decision. Up to Fremantle, you know, whether they want to wear the purple or not, and they've chosen to wear all white.
Andrew, how many Docker supporters are coming over?
Look, Bruce, there are lots of them, which is fantastic, and they're great supporters. 18,000 registered for their ballot. As I understand it, they've got 15,000 tickets. The good thing is that there's some Fremantle supporters who haven't been able to get travel, who are now going to exchange those for the people who did get it in the ballot. If any tickets become available at the end of the week, which they may, it doesn't look like at this stage, we'd certainly love to see as many Fremantle people as possible. There's going to be a sea of purple there. I don't know where they're all going to be sleeping, but they're driving, they're training, they're busing, there's charter flights. It's fantastic.
Wow.
Doug, I want to talk about one player, Ryan Crowley, is going to be the talk of the week this week, and his role. But I want to ask you about the tactics from a Hawthorn point of view. I think he's going to go to Sam Mitchell. I mean, there might be talk he goes to Hodge, but I think sometimes the obvious one is the one to go to. If you're Alistair Clark, and we're going to talk to him on the show shortly, do you put some tactics in place? And I'm not talking about knocking him out, but I'm talking about Jordan Lewis running through him and Guerra running through him and just getting him to look over his shoulder a bit?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, and I want to ask Alistair that exact question, because I think what you've got to do, you don't want him to be the aggressor. You don't want him to take control. And he will run to, like you said, Mitchell or Hodge, and that's what he'll try to do. And he's done that well all year. But certainly send a player to Crowley. Have two running around with one for a little while and see what they do. I mean, you've really got to try to take control of the game, don't you? And he is such an integral part. I never thought I'd be saying a tagger is an integral part of an AFL Grand Final, but he is.
Alistair Clark has been reasonably fiery over the journey, Bruce. So I reckon they'll have a plan for sure, and they'll try and do it within the rules, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gets some attention that he hasn't had before, and he should. You know, he's got to make it a little bit difficult. Now, you can get it wrong too, because Port Adelaide in this grand final against Brisbane were massive underdogs. Josh Carr was probably the equivalent to Ryan Crowley back then, you remember, and they wanted to kill him, the Brisbane players, and John O'Brien got 4 weeks suspension on the back of this. And I reckon it worked against them. So you can get it wrong too. I think they've got to get the balance right.
Absolutely. If you go out there attacking the player and not worrying about the footy, you get it wrong the first 10 or 15 minutes, you lose. You lose you lose your head, don't you?
What about Zach Dawson? I mean, he's got a fascinating CV. I mean, he started with Alistair Clarkson. He played not very many games over a period of time, and then he's ended up with Ross Lyon. He's almost his security blanket, I reckon. Everywhere Ross goes, Zach goes. But can he play?
Can he play? He gets lost. I've got to admit, he's a player. He's an interesting player. He likes playing in front, and if you see when he plays on a guy that is smart and is able to lose him, and you just see how much space he does get, and especially he plays in front. You see there Rewalt getting behind him. You see there Cameron behind him again. And here's another example. Behind him, misjudges it. He plays that 2 or 3 metres in front, Das, and he just doesn't know where the ball is. But the advantage of that at times is he then leaves his opponent. He's able to put pressure on other players around the ground. But if I was Alistair Clarkson, I would be isolating Zach Dawson.
So you think he's their weak link? You'd be trying to get him one out?
There's no question that Zach Dawson's their weak link in their defence, in my opinion.
The one person who'll play on will be Jared Roughhead. He gets him every time they play against Hawthorn. He's had a pretty good record of doing the job done and getting the job done. And Jared Roughhead's finals form is a great player, Coleman medalist, and I love him as a player, but you can just see he hasn't kicked as many goals and hasn't had a great finals record, so he'll be pretty keen to try and set that straight.
Well, no better place than sit the big fella in the goal square, let Buddy run up the ground, let Gunston, let Rioli, let those guys do all the legwork and try to isolate Roughhead in the goal square on Zach Dawson. I'd be pretty sure he'd be fairly nervous if that was to occur.
You've looked at the list, I know, both of you. You've had a look and you've sort of put them into 3 categories or maybe 4 categories, but you've gone... Now, who's done Fremantle?
Yeah, I'd look at Fremantle, Bruce, and interestingly, I've got 8 A-graders from Fremantle. I put Ballantyne in there, and some people might question that, but he's a star, Ballantyne. He's unbelievable. Fife, no question. Mundy, for me, no question. McFarlane, I reckon, is a walk-up start in the All-Australian if he plays every game. Pavlich has been a superstar. Hill is a freak of a player. Michael Johnson, an All-Australian this year, and Sandilands is an A-grader. And, the huge group of B-graders. Wayne maybe select Dawson as a C grade on the back of that, and Zach Clark I think is probably just finding his feet a little bit. But I was surprised by how many elite players when you break Fremantle's list down.
Oh yeah, and they've improved very quickly. I mean, you look at that list, and probably 2 or 3 years ago you wouldn't have had that many A graders, and there'd probably be a lot more C graders. So that's an impressive football team right there.
Oh, I think it just goes to show what Ross Lyon can do as a coach, Bruce. I mean, he gets the best out of his players. He gets his players to play for him, and he's turned some players and shifted the culture of that club, and he's done amazing things.
And what about the Hawks? I mean, they're a star-studded team. Have they got more elite players than Fremantle on our list?
Well, look, I've listed their A graders, and I've got 5. So I've got Franklin, Hodge, Mitchell, Roughhead, and Rioli, and I think they picked themselves as A graders. But where it differs, so they've got less A graders than Fremantle, we think, but the B graders, I think they go a little bit deeper in that area, and maybe their B graders just have a little bit more experience and maybe a little bit more class than Fremantle. So that's where the advantage is. And as you know, Das, if you're going to win premierships, it's probably your lower B graders and also your C graders, how they perform on the biggest day. You know what you're going to get from your A graders. It's those low Bs and Cs.
So, Doug, I noticed Savage there. So you're bringing Savage in for Whitecross?
Yeah, I'm bringing Savage in for Whitecross.
I guess it's either Duray, Savage, Anderson, or maybe Simpkins. So they would be the 4. So that's a question we'll ask Alistair Clarkson, obviously, when he joins us shortly. It's going to be a fabulous match. Have you made up your mind yet? I'm going to ask you later. Hawthorn. It's a Hawthorn or a draw, is it?
That's what I think, Bruce.
OK.
Looking for their first ever grand final. Fremantle will play Hawthorn in the grand final. Siren sounds. I've been losing sleep, dreaming about the things that we could be. Lately, I've been losing sleep, dreaming about the things that we could be. Baby, I've been praying hard, sitting on more counting dollars. We'll become stars.
Yeah, bring it on. What an amazing night it was. And felt like we were seeing something different in that first half. Football we'd never, ever seen before. So the Dockers get to the MCG on the last Saturday in September. Ross Lyon joins us from Perth tonight. Ross, thank you very much. Congratulations. I must ask you, can we start with the team? I mean, have you got any doubts? I mean, I know a couple of blokes probably didn't train today. Is it McFarlane, Johnson and Mayne? I mean, can you fill us in?
Yeah, no, it's very typical. Chris Mayne was interesting. He hurt his back jumping over Ryan Crowley's balcony, picking him up on the way to the game. So I got a tap on the shoulder that he mightn't play. So he's a bit of residual effect from the back, but he'll be fine. McFarlane is precaution. Johnson had the tight band in his calf, so that's precaution as well. It's pretty typical after a bruising final to look after them, particularly the backmen early in the week. So I would expect all 22 to play. I'd be very surprised if they don't.
Hey Ross, speaking of Chris Mayne, I read during the week he said he'd rather have 10 tackles than kick 4 goals. If you could choose on the grand final, would you have him kick 4 or lay 10 tackles?
I'll take the 4 goals. I think he's not a porky pie there, but he'll please the coach if he lays 10 tackles and kicks 4 goals. So look, he's a really hard worker and he embodies the team spirit. So, you know, we're lucky to have him.
Ross, you haven't got a lot of grand final experience in terms of players playing in a grand final. One guy that has played in a few is your full-back, Zach Dawson. He's a different character. What do you see in him that maybe some of us don't?
Well, I just judge him on his ability to defend the tall forwards. Look, he's not great with the ball in hand, but he's improved it. But if you go over his final record, he stands up. He gets it done. He defends the big guys really well, and he helps organise the other defenders. So he's certainly a great competitor, and he's really underrated. I don't understand the criticisms. I've never understood it really, and he's grown, but it is what it is. You know.
Ross, I'm sure if you win this week, you can imagine the amazing effect it'll have on the club, their first ever premiership. But having been there yourself and not got there, what would this mean to you?
Look, it'd be significant, you know, on a personal level to, as a senior coach, to coach a premiership, because that's the aim, that's the business, and there'd be a degree of satisfaction. There's no doubt about that, but I'm careful with my mindset that, you know, if it didn't go our way, that it doesn't define me purely as a person. Certainly as a professional football coach, it's really important, but as long as we put everything we can into it, and if we were to fall short, we'll just keep knocking on the door till we get what we want. And certainly there's been some hardship in the past, but it's all relative to life experiences, and you know, I can't let it sort of derail the rest of my life as much as in a football sense it would be devastating.
Ross, I always remember your first press conference when you went over to Western Australia, and I hadn't seen a press group attack someone like they went after you, and they were suggesting that you'd stab Mark Harvey in the back, and I remember you saying, I can hold my head high, I've got no issues with my own integrity. Are they the same people that are your best mates now? And I saw them over there on Saturday night. They love you now. Do you remember a few of them?
I'm not sure we're best friends, but and maybe you need to tune into a few more press conferences. There's been some brutal ones this year, you know. I don't think they take any prisoners. Look, I don't take it personally. You know, it wasn't ideal for all parties concerned. We acknowledge that, but with full information and facts. But, you know, as you know, Andrew and you well know, and Wayne knows, you just got to deal with it and move on, and you know, be judged on your actions going forward. And I feel, you know, in my role here, I've given everything I can. The club's embraced me, the players have embraced me, and it's not about me personally. It really is. You know, Andrew often talks, you need great president, or really competent president, CEO, football operations manager, a senior coach and a captain. If you have those pillars, you know, they can offer leadership for all those around. And if you get great people and enough of them in the right seats, you can grow your football club. And that's the real story of Fremantle. Long before I got here, you know, some pillars being put down, a strong strategic direction that's been stuck to, and we're aiming to ultimately deliver on it on the weekend.
Andrew's nodding his head. Now, this could be a complex question, Ross. I'll try and make it simple. You're not wearing the Guernsey. You're not wearing the purple haze. Now, the AFL said you had to wear the white shorts, so you've gone with the alternative strip. Now, we're all a bit disappointed with that. It's been suggested you feel as a coach that the white will give you an advantage, because when the players look up, they'll see their teammates more clearly. Can you fill us in, mate?
Well, football's, you know, when teams win and lose, it's full of abstract theories, isn't it? Monday's experts, you know, I'm all about passion and willpower. So the colour of the Guernsey doesn't worry me. It was a club executive decision. They could have worn the purple, I think. Me personally, no, I haven't got the luxury to delve into those things. Players wouldn't give it a second thought. I think ideally would love the purple, but, you know, we'll play bare skin if we had to, and we're playing the car park. So we'll just take what comes. And our aim is to play some great footy and put on a great show for everyone that's watching all around Australia and the world.
Ross, I think we're all blown away, especially in the first quarter last week against Sydney, with your fanatical pressure. How do you sustain that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Look, it was 2 weeks of pent-up emotion and energy being unleashed, really. So, that, you know, it'd be like to bottle that for 4 quarters. It won't go all our way on the weekend. But we're not magically trying to turn on like a tap. We've trained really hard for a long period of time now. And the home and away season, I think the outcomes are what change and the anxiety. But home and away football in itself is brutal. Finals are marginally more difficult. You're just playing more quality consistently. So we'll just draw on what we've delivered in the past, as Hawthorn will. And we're not looking for anything new. We just need to bring it to life again because, unfortunately, last week doesn't count. I wish it did.
Ross, what's it like in Perth this week as a lead up to the grand final compared to what it was like with St Kilda?
Yeah, well, it was at 5,000 at our training today. Really passionate, enthusiastic. The Saints probably had 10 there, so it was slightly unders. We had some bad weather, but Perth is very similar to Melbourne. The passion for Aussie rules just runs really deep. It runs through all levels of Perth society, you know, from the corporate CEOs, you know, the head of Woodside, Peter Coleman, you know, through to our logistics people and our fans and members all over Perth, and they're all jumped on board. It's a fantastic place to be.
Ross, thanks for your time. You may be officially a genius by Saturday afternoon. We all think you are, but all the best, mate. It's going to be so exciting. It really is.
Thanks very much, Bruce. Appreciate it.
Good on you. Ross Lyon, that's Wayne. Who's the most important player this weekend?
Oh, it's a pretty obvious one for me. Luke Hodge is the Hawthorn captain, and he's the general. I think if Luke Hodge plays well, it'll go a long way to Hawthorn winning the game.
Well, it's strange to say it. I'm a bit obsessed with Ryan Crowley, but I think if he does a job like I think he's going to do and shuts down, like you might take Hodge
Didn't even put him in the All-Australian team. Now you're saying he's the most important player grand final?
Well, if he keeps doing the roles that he's doing, it'll just take the air out of Hawthorn sales. I think he'll go to Mitchell. If Mitchell has an 11-possession grand final, I reckon Fremantle win.
Andrew?
I actually think Aaron Sandlands is the most important person, Bruce. Ruckman performed exceptionally well in grand finals, and if he gives first use to his players and they clear the ball out of the centre, it's a big advantage. And if they can nullify that, Hawthorn, that could be a very big turning point.
I'm a bit with you, actually. If you asked me, I'd go the same way. OK, who's going to win?
Well, after saying Luke Hodge was the most important player, I think Fremantle might just get over the line. They've impressed me their whole final series, so I think they're the team to beat.
I reckon we're going to get a scoreline of around 60 or 70 points, and I think their style suits grand final day, and they'll win in a really close game.
Well, I said 4 weeks ago I thought they had a good chance. I'm going to stick with the Dockers, but this is so close. And, Andrew, you can have the final say.
I'd probably think Hawthorn, as Alistair Clarkson said, Bruce, have just had a different preparation this year, and they are hurting from last year, and teams that lose a grand final can rebound. So I just think the Hawks in a close one.